Hello everybody, my name is Mikey, and today I want to make a quick video about the situation with League of Legends right now, and specifically in how it relates to Fortnite, and also why I think that League isn't dying, but is definitely losing a lot of its mystique that it's carried over the past several years. So fitting for this video, I just have some gameplay. I'm just kind of walking through right now on Call of the Wild. Kind of have some relaxing music and something I don't really have to focus too much on, so I can just talk to you guys about the message I want to get across today. So is League dying? I do not think League is dying, but it's definitely losing players. So I think League of Legends will still be around for several years, being popular, and it might even pick up more steam later on. But I want to talk about some of the issues that League of Legends is facing right now. So the first thing I want to talk about is whenever you get a mass exodus of players, especially influential people and streamers, it really stacks on top of each other. So what I'm talking about here is when a game gets bad press, or when a game as very influential people leave, more people than usual will follow them. So it becomes more of the hip thing to do. For example, if you and your friends play League of Legends and you quit League of Legends, it loses incentive to get better at League of Legends. So how I'll explain this is with an experience I had in the past. When I was younger, I would play RuneScape. At the time, it was like 2007, 2008 when RuneScape was in its heyday. And the world felt so alive, and the world felt just alive with people who wanted to get better at the game and wanted to show off to their friends. And as my friends started getting older and a lot of people started quitting, I eventually quit the game as well. And when I came back to old school RuneScape, now that it's branded old school RuneScape several years later, that incentive to progress isn't there. The people that enjoy the game the most are the people who have ooh, there's a bear are the people who have self-promoting goals. So when you want to get better as a player, you feel rewarded by it. But as vain as it sounds, a lot of people play games or want to progress in games to get validation from the community that they're in. So for example, in League of Legends, getting a higher rank is, seen as you being a better player. And a lot of people are losing value in that. They've spent so much time trying to rank up, and if all their friends are gone, then it's less meaningful nowadays. So that's definitely one of the biggest problems. And also, if all your friends are quitting the game, you might want to be playing it less because you don't have any friends to play with. They might be playing a different game, such as like Fortnite. And playing games with your friends is obviously something that carries a social aspect into gaming that we all need a portion of. Some people obviously are more involved in single player games than multiplayer, but the fact holds true that people want to be involved with games that their friends are involved in. I'll give you another example. Is I played a lot of Rainbow Six Siege, not because I particularly enjoy the game, I really don't, but because I have so much fun with my buddies playing it. And so that's really the only reason why I play it. I don't play it alone. I tried when we first started playing it, I played a few hours alone, but pretty much all my hours on there are with friends. So yeah, so when there's a mass exodus of people and influential streamers leave the game, like NightBlue3 and Nice and other people, and start talking poorly about the game, or like Dyrus switching to other games, it really creates a ripple effect with his audience, or with their audiences, I should say. Number two is people are unhappy with the state of the game, especially old-time players. I'm going to take a quick shot here. Oh, and we got him. Okay. People are unhappy with the state of the game, and especially veteran players. So I want to dive into this a little bit. Back in the day, from what I've heard from most players, I started playing in Season 5. So the game already started to become very calculated at this point in time when I started playing. But what I've heard from veteran players is that the game used to be very solo focused. You used to be able to carry a game yourself, and it was less oriented around team play. And with the changes to Baron, the changes to Dragon, Tower Gold, and things of that nature, team play has become the prominent factor. Split pushing has almost been killed off unless you really know how to pull it off. And Riot wants to focus on a team-oriented game, and that's totally fine that it's an objective-based game, but it does take the solo carry potential out of the game. So a lot of people, I noticed the people that are struggling to enjoy League the most are top laners and junglers and mid laners. And the people that I see still enjoying the game tend to be bot laners, people that want to team fight and don't split push in general. So it's an interesting trend I've seen, but this is very frustrating to people who have almost grown up with the game, doing very well by solo carrying. They feel like they actually have an impact on the game. And I forget who said it, but there was a great quote, and it was, I no longer feel like you can win a game single-handedly, but one person can lose a game single-handedly. And I think this is very frustrating for a lot of players who are trying to improve and sometimes feel like they aren't having the impact that they could. And I think everybody hits that frustration. So when you can't rank up, it can be a frustrating thing in and of itself, but when you also feel like that you have such a low impact even when you are performing correctly, it leads to a lot of frustrated players, and frustrated players generally will want to leave the game. So that was a quick snippet I wanted to give on that. The next reason is I want to talk about the toxic community. League of Legends has always been deemed as one of the most toxic communities. I think that's fair to say. And however you define toxic, it can be a multitude of different things. But one of the biggest problems, I think, is the state of the game, and people unhappy with the state of the game is leading to more and more toxicity. And I think that the game state itself lends more to the toxicity than the people in it. So the same people that are playing League of Legends are playing other video games, and our community tends to have more of a labeling as being toxic. And I believe that's because you are not solo dependent in League of Legends. You are dependent on your team's performance. And I'll give you an example. I used to be a competitive golfer back in high school, and I almost played in college when I decided to quit my senior year of high school. And the great thing about golf is that when you mess up, it's on you. You can't blame anybody else. People try to blame others, but it's hard to blame others when you're the one that's hitting the golf ball. You're the one that's making the shots. And this is something that a lot of games have tackled by being a solo influenced situation. So games like Hearthstone, Fortnite, PUBG, your win is indicative of how you performed. Ooh, let's hit this thing right here. I think I hit him. So your performance is completely based off how you perform as an individual. And if you perform poorly, you'll lose. And a lot of people can accept that. They'll say, okay, I can get better. But when you're trying to get better at a game that is completely based on how 5 players perform, it's a really tricky situation that breeds a lot of toxicity. You have a lot of people who blame Elo Hell, a lot of people who believe they are performing adequately and their team isn't. And when you're the reason for someone else losing LP, something that they're really motivated by to try to get better, that is what is causing these big toxicity problems. That's in my opinion the birth of the toxicity, because in Hearthstone you're not toxic, and Fortnite most people aren't toxic. They might BM you when they beat you, but that's acceptable. That's different. I'm talking about people who are genuinely mad and upset at the fact that you're in their game. And this stacking, you're just exposed to it every game in, game out, no matter what elo you're in, and people get burnt out and they become toxic themselves. I've definitely become a toxic League player because that's almost a learned habit. That is how you're kind of raised in the game. You get dropped into this world and you realize that the only way to defend yourself is with fire, fighting fire with fire. So it's not the correct way to be, but it's almost like you got to stick up for yourself and defend yourself. That's your instinct as a human, and it leads to really bad situations and a lot of AFKers and inters and people that want to lose you the game because they have the power over the state of the game. I mean, you can have one person say, you know what, I don't like you, you don't deserve to win, and they can feed, and you lose the game, and they feel gratified because they made you lose the game. It was the correct thing for them to do in their mind. And that's a very upsetting reality of team-based games is you can improve your personal play, and over a course of many games, you can, climb. That is kind of the idea of it, is you need a larger sample size of games. But I think that people are more rewarded by solo carrying games, and League used to be more focused on that. If you carried super hard, you could win the game pretty easily. And now that it's more of a team-based game, people are flocking to these other games that are single-player based, where if they improve, they will see a direct effect on how they are in the rankings and how they are performing. So I think that's one of the biggest things that's adding toxicity to the game, and another reason why League of Legends is losing some viewership, as well as declining in terms of the most popular game. Okay, so now I want to talk about, I have another point here where there's other games to move to now. And the problem is the allure of new games can drag enough people to it to build momentum. And this is exactly what I'm talking about with Fortnite right now, is I think it's a very good game. It's a well-designed game. I'm not too well read on the game. I'm not good at it, nor do I know the balance of the game state, but I do know that a lot of people are flocking to it. And when streamers and influential people flock to games and give them press, it can build momentum, and your friends start playing it, so you start playing it. And that's how games are, is a game needs to have momentum in the positive direction to get enough people to play it, where that it grows a large enough community. So this is the problem I was talking about with old school RuneScape, is there's a dedicated player base for sure, a decent sized dedicated player base, but there's no incentive for new people to want to play. So what you end up getting is you get a game that the people that do play it love to play it and are very dedicated to it, but it's not dragging in new people. And that's how you maintain the health of a economy in a game. So for example, Fortnite, you have Ninja, who's bringing in tons of people, and people moving from League to think about the amount of people that Dyrus has potentially gotten to try Fortnite. Even I've tried Fortnite because of the streamers I watched. I was interested in it at Zilch, is a nil. I didn't want to try it. I wasn't interested in the game. But I tried it because the streamers I watch are playing it, and the streamers have a huge effect on Twitch, on the general population of PC gamers in specific, which is who I'm targeting. Console gamers are a whole nother breed, and they're a little less in touch with platforms like Twitch and etc., whereas PC gamers are more so likely to be involved with Twitch. So I think that when there's other games to move to, it reinforces the previous points of why people are upset. If people are upset about a game, but they don't feel like they have anything to move to, generally they'll stay status quo and they'll want to continue the game that they're playing. Whereas if there's other viable options to move to, and streamers are moving to them, and their friends are moving to them and saying, hey, come on, try a game of Fortnite with us, it'll be fun, it's really easy to just jump ship. And once you jump ship, because this is coming from personal experience and specifically with League, I jumped ship for a year. And once you jump ship in playing other things that you enjoy, the urge to play goes down dramatically. That I know for sure. I did come back after a year, but if I never touched the game again, I think I would have felt, I don't know, I think I would have felt fine. I wouldn't have had the urge to play it, I don't believe. So that's obviously a huge problem, is League can be very addicting, and when people say they want to quit and they don't, that's very common, or people quit for a little bit and come back. But once people stop playing the game and play things that they really enjoy, I think it becomes a big problem for League of Legends. And the last point I want to talk about is people being bored of the game. Now, the game is quite old. I forget when Season 1 was, so we can approximate that it was created about 8 years ago, and then a lot of people played in beta. And the game has definitely evolved into one of the biggest esports over that time. We have a deer right here. I'm looking for you. Should be a good shot. The game has evolved over the course of time quite a bit, and some people agree with the changes and some people don't. But whether you agree with them or not, people put a substantial amount of time when they're dedicated to League into the game, and at some point people are just going to get bored of the experience, especially at higher elos. This is something I really want to touch on. At lower elos, you can get away with doing a lot of interesting things, but with the state of the game right now, it's very, even lower tier players know what is needed to win a game of League of Legends, and they know what picks are strong and they know what picks are weak, and they know whether you're playing an off meta pick or not because of the good players that they watch. And this is kind of a problem, is the individuality of League has gone to the wayside. People are forced into a box, and if you don't go into that box, you're going to get toxicity from the community. For example, to quote Nice here, is he really enjoyed playing his Smite Tryndamere top and smurfing on that and doing very well. But if he were to try to pull that off in the higher elos, he'd have a lot of people who would get very upset with him. Even at the lower ranks, he had people getting upset with why he was picking such a off meta setup. And I don't know. I think that when the individuality of a game is lost, you're doing a copy and paste thing that the best players are doing in hopes that you execute it better each game. And I think that repetitive experience gets old for a lot of players very quickly. And I don't think they want to keep doing that for thousands and thousands more games, especially when the reward of getting better is less enticing than it ever has been. So I wanted to talk about this today. I don't know if new people will see this, if my subscribers will see this. I'm going to continue to play League because I've made a commitment to try to get to Diamond 5 this season. And when I get there, I'll decide how I feel about the game. If the game continues to have a mass exodus of people, I might have to change gears. So let me know down below. If you're a viewer of mine, do you enjoy the League content? Do you want to keep seeing League content, or should I start the transition away from it as soon as I, reach my goal? And I'm trying to make that decision myself. I find myself extremely frustrated playing League. I feel like it's very hopeless sometimes, but I have been making steady progression, and it's tempting to stay when you make that steady progression. I like the competitive edge of getting better at a game. And there's no other games that I'm really motivated to perform better at. I think it's a great platform for coaching. I think that... we didn't hit her well. I have to track her a little bit. I think it's a great platform for coaching, and a lot of other games don't offer coaching opportunities. And that's something that I want to potentially do as like a side gig, is I want to coach some people and get to the point where I can do that. So right now, I just don't know if it's worth or not. I'm really kind of doing some soul searching, and I am enjoying the heck out of a lot of other games. And, at some point you got to make the call. So I don't know. Thank you guys for listening. Let me know what you think down below. Why is League dying, quote unquote? Do you think League's dying? Do you think it's going to be just fine? Do you think this is a quick mass exodus, just like we had for Overwatch? If you recall, like Solar Renekton only left and said he was just going to do Overwatch. And he kind of came back to League and has had huge success doing it. Do you think that the game will continue to prosper, that Riot might make some good changes, or do you think it's going to continue in this slow spiral and eventually out of relevance? And it'll be a sad day to see that, and I think we can all pay respects to how much the game has grown esports and the attention around esports and the economy of esports, and it's grown this into a career for people. League of Legends has created a lot of jobs and has created a whole community of gamers who will move on at someday to new games, but it still has built esports as a whole. It's brought an attention. It's brought an attention to this game, or to this hobby, and has brought in relevance to the career path of being an esports player or an organization owner or working in esports. So I give kudos to League for what it's done for gaming, and I really hope that in the coming months we'll be able to see where League of Legends goes from here. So like I said, leave a comment, like or dislike if you agree with the points I've made in the video. Look at some of my other videos. If you're new to the channel, I think you might enjoy them. Give me some criticism, and I hope you guys have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.